Hi, I am Meenadas, CEO of consulting company called NamasteData. I'm joining from beautiful British Columbia, my home in Vancouver. I work from home, and this is Friday. I'm so excited to talk to you through this video because data is something I love to talk about, and that's what I'm going to talk about here. My work focuses on data equity and AI ethics for nonprofits. See, AI or artificial intelligence is not new in the industry, but we in the nonprofits are ramping up to it. We are more and more talking about it, learning about it. And so one of the questions that I get the most is, how do I get started with AI? I want to bring that question to you today. So what I offer in response to that question are three frameworks. One, how can you center learning when you talk about artificial intelligence? That's the first framework. See, getting started with AI, the response is not as simple as a checklist or a series of steps that, regardless of the role of a person in your organization, they can take and they get just started with AI. See, the response would be different for a board member versus the roles and responsibilities around AI for a data scientist versus an analyst. So the first framework is about really centering collective learning for us when we want to learn or talk about artificial intelligence. The second framework that I talk about is, how do you know what tasks to automate when you are thinking about AI, right? There are a lot of tasks that we do. It goes on our to-do lists. Which ones can you really pick and use AI intentionally? The third framework that I offer is, how do you know if your organization is ready for AI? See, with the AI, you can get outside solutions, right, from the tech vendors. You can get logins. And how do you not have them just sitting in your, like another add-on in your inboxes and in your Google Drives and OneDrives? How can you make your AI solution that you bring in your nonprofit to be sustainable, to be long-term, right? So that's the third framework. Now, I'm not going to talk about all the three frameworks in this video, but I want to give you specifically some exercise around the second framework, really walk you through what the process is there, what I make my workshop participants and clients go through under the second question, which is, how do I know which tasks to automate? So here's what I want you to do. Pull a paper, a pencil, or a pen, and I'm going to give you a series of questions, and I want you to solve them, and then come up with an answer. And then once you are done with that, talk to each other, talk to the people in the virtual room, talk to the people in your organization, take this question back and have them do it, and then talk about it to see, do you align on those tasks that you can automate today or not? That's your first step in thinking, okay, this is where I can bring AI more intentionally in my work. Ready? Okay, so the first question is, I want you to list 5 to 7 key things that you have to accomplish in the coming year. See, I don't want to give you options of AI tools that you then have to learn and somehow fit your priorities and goals under the capabilities of the AI system. I want you to start with intention and purpose. So I want you to first list, before getting into AI, what can be automated. I want you to come up with a list of things, 5 to 7 key things you're supposed to get done in the next year. It can come from your annual reviews, your annual goal plans, your team plans, right? Okay. Once you're done with that, second question is, I want you to find out, circle those mini tasks which are repetitive, right? So if you create a report, let's say, I want you to circle that. And next to figuring out which tasks are repetitive, I want you to write down What's the frequency of repetition? So if you are creating a report which you update every week, that's weekly, right? If you create a board dashboard, which happens maybe, let's say, 4 times a year, that's just quarterly. That's not weekly kind of a situation. I want you to figure out, the goal of this question is to figure out which tasks can really use some automation and in a way that's helpful to you. It has a purpose, it has a goal, right? And the goal is to figure out which ones have the highest frequency. If something is happening just twice a year or thrice a year, it's not such a great not such a great answer for you to bring a very highly sophisticated AI. You can still create dashboards out of it, but something that you are doing every week or every other month, there are different ways you can approach that with AI solutions. So basically, I want you to figure out which ones are the highest frequency action items, right? Okay. So you found what you need to accomplish in the next year. You found which are the tasks that are most repetitive. Third, I want you to figure out for the ones, let's pick 2 tasks or 2 or 3 tasks out of that, right? Of that list, which are most repetitive. Now that you have figured that out, the third question is for you to list the data sources that exist for those repetitive tasks. Now, you may not have or know exactly where those data sources are. So take your best guess, write it down. It comes from an Excel spreadsheet, or so-and-so person sends it to me, or it lives somewhere in the CRM and I don't know. It can be anything. We're not looking for perfect answers here. We're really looking for what we're looking for is a conversation starter that you can then do with your team. Okay, so the third question is, write down if there are any good data sources. Do you have the data for this or not? Because sometimes, to give you an example, because sometimes in some cases, if you're making a dashboard or designing a dashboard or a report, you really don't have that level of detail of data. And so you really have to rely on some existing portions, turn it into presentations, and you're not ready there yet to create very sophisticated reports on the kind of questions you want to answer. So first thing that I want you to do after you have figured out which tasks are repetitive with the frequency is if you have good enough data sources there or not, because automation means, right? If you're bringing AI solutions with something automation included, that means you need to feed something consistently over time. And when I say something, that's your data. So, okay, question number 3, figure out the data sources, right? Question 4, I want you to map the impact of solving something that is high frequency, repetitive task and has a data source. So if it has data, great, that means you are on the path of something that can be automated. Now I want you to map what's the impact of it, because sometimes if you are really automating something which doesn't have that much impact, again, it's not worth it right now to pick every action and turn it into an automated procedure. Instead, what I want you to final step I want you to do is figure out what's the impact if you solve those on your task. What are you gaining if you run that automation? Are you going to save time? Are you going to save dollars? Where is the impact going to be seen and felt? Because I have my final question for you after that. Okay, so you figured out what tasks you have to do for the year. You figured out what are the repetitive tasks. You figured out if have the data sources, and for those that have the data sources, you figured out if they have the impact or not. Final question number 5, is if you have figured out all these tasks, right, for your automation, the final question is, I want you to think, what do you need in terms of learning to get started? So you don't have to implement these solutions by yourself in your nonprofits. You would be taking it back to your team. You would be having a conversation, right? but I want you to think, what do you need to learn to get started? And second part to that question is, when you found out in the last question what you are saving, right? You figured out if you're saving time or if you're saving dollars. I want you to think, what are you going to do with that transformation? What are you going to do with that saved time? How are you repurposing it? So the question 5 is in 2 parts. 1, what do you need to learn to get started? 2, what are you going to do with the transformation you have achieved should you implement automation? Okay, so once you have those answers on a sheet of paper, I want you to take those answers, take it back to your team, and have a good conversation. Start a conversation. That is how you get started with AI. Being intentional, purpose-driven, and really caring about bringing a solution that just doesn't help you in a very singular, linear way, but really makes it sustainable for you, for your growth. Thank you so much. If you have questions, you can always reach me at my website, NamasteData. It's namastedata.org, NamasteData.org. Or you can reach me on LinkedIn. I'm always here to answer any questions, include your voice, and create spaces of dialogue. Thank you.